Welcome back to another episode of Tapped In with Tony. Joining me tonight is Buchtel wide receivers coach and member of Hiram College Hall of Fame, Glenn Campbell, aka Coach G. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me. You forgot offensive coordinator too.
Offensive coordinator as well. My apologies. Offensive coordinator, wide receivers coach, do it all.
I try to keep it multifaceted.
So, Coach, for those who are new to the program, tell us a little bit more about you. Tell us a little more about
Um, I'm from West Akron, Ohio. I went to Akron Buchtel, where I'm coaching at my alma mater. Um, Played, 2 years at Buchtel. Was a part of some really good teams. Ended up at Hiram College. I wouldn't say it was my first choice or first destiny, but you know, things happen in life, and you got to make decisions and things that's out of your control, and you end up in situations that make you um, who you are, and that add a little adversity to you that make you stronger. So I played 4 years at Hiram. I played football and basketball all 4 years, um, and then I graduated from there with a degree in communication, and I've been working for Sherwin-Williams since, and mentoring the youth and training the youth, and just my purpose is giving back. So that's what I've been doing.
it. Tell us about your high school career as far as football goes.
It was interesting to say. Everyone, knows about the things I did at Hiram, but a lot of people don't know that I truly only started 1 year at Buchtel, and I was a quarterback at Buchtel. So as a sophomore, I played a lot of varsity, um, and we had a pretty good team. So my sophomore year was the year after Antonio Pittman left Buchtel to go to Ohio State. So I was a freshman when Antonio Pittman was a senior. So I got to see him. I got to see those guys play in the playoffs and be state contenders. So my sophomore year, I only started one game as a sophomore. And I was platooning that year. My junior year, I was platooning at quarterback as well. I broke my wrist in the second game of the year against Warren Harding. I missed about 4 games, and then I came back, and we ended up losing in the state semifinals to Steubenville that year. My senior year was, like I said, my only true year fully starting. We missed the playoffs by a couple of points. Um, First team all city, all region, and then basketball was kind of the same way. Had to wait my turn to play. That's just how deep we were in that era of Buchtel High School football and basketball. So I ended up at Hiram after that. So I would say my career was okay. I thought about leaving. In this era, I probably would leave, but knowing how much that helped me grow as a person, as a player, um, it was best that I stayed because it made me learn how to compete, how to always be ready, because you just kind of never know when your number's gonna get called.
Gotcha. And talk about how the recruiting process went back in the late 2000s as compared to now when you've got NIL deals going, kids are going all around the nation and stuff like that.
It's a lot different. So, like I said, I was a late bloomer in high school. So, um, of course, Hiram was there. Interesting. I went to Hiram initially to play basketball. I had no intentions on playing football, but I had two offers coming out of Buchtel, Mercyhurst and Gannon. Um, my coach lost his job right 2 weeks before signing day, and I didn't hear from those two schools after that. So that's what I mean with adversity, and me being in a situation where I probably shouldn't have been in my eye. But Hiram was there on the basketball side from day one. So took my visit. I said, yeah, I'll come here. Just randomly talked to the football coach. They had no idea who I was. And we had a coach on the team that was from Akron. So he knew who I was, and he just kind of made me go talk to the head coach. I sent my highlight tape in, and next thing you know, they talked me into playing football. So with the NILs now, it's just it's crazy because I just remember those days when I was in college as a freshman, barely having a debit card, like and having to call my mom or after the games, like, hey, can you put this on a debit card? And now we got electronic payments now, and now you can have people, just give you, money for a game or anything like that, or just talk to someone to sign an autograph and you can get paid. So it's a lot different. Um, and naive me back in, you know, maybe 7 years ago, 8, 9 years ago, when Boom Heron and those guys got into that situation over the tattoos. I was like, well, we go through this process of what we can and what we can't do. Now, older me and more, I sat back and just think about how much you put into a university. NILs definitely should have been a long time ago.
I agree. Especially nowadays, you got these kids potentially sign up to $1 million deals
Yeah,
before they even touch a college football field.
yeah. I mean, you could look at even Trey McNutt just committing, yesterday, and Phil Knight, pretty much saying I'm giving all the football players unlimited NIL. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer if Oregon offers you. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go to Oregon for that unlimited NIL, and Nike's there too. So it's a lot of perks that come with going to Oregon. But yeah, NIL I think is good for the players. I do think there needs to be some type of limitation as far as, like, I want to say tampering goes. I don't know how all that goes with boosters and how people can contact you because I'm not truly in that world. But there needs to be some minimal type of limitation when it comes to that. So
Yeah, I wonder if I still have eligibility left. I mean, hey, I may be 32 years old. Let me see if I can suit
yeah,
the class.
my group chat was talking about it last night, and I said, that's probably one of the reasons he went, on top of him being an excellent football player, an
Yep.
excellent kid. I've gotten to work with him since he was in the 8th grade, before he really had his sights set on playing safety. So I know him. He's a really good kid. But yeah, Oregon unlimited NIL is kind of like, hey, go to Oregon.
Yep, they're going all in this year. It's one of the things, believe it or not, that makes college football, especially this year, special. One would think Oregon would be and still in my mind they're a Pac-12 school, even though the
Yeah,
Pac-12 has two members. They're always going to be a Pac-12 school to me.
yeah,
That's not going to change.
yeah. Me and mine. And I do think that they're going to be pretty solid. I think it's just going to be different for the time difference. I don't think people really understand like how much of Pacific Coast time playing on the East Coast is going to, have an impact on every team making those trips back and forth. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially the California teams coming in November to the Midwest. Is going to be interesting to see, but I'm excited about the college football season. I'm glad they expanded the playoffs. I think, I do think, is it 16 the teams this year?
It's 12.
12. Okay, I do think 12 might be too many. You
I
know,
agree. I think 4 was okay, and this is going to be a popular take. I liked the old BCS system.
yeah, I was happy with. I think 8 is perfect. Because you can't say over the last maybe 5, 6, 7 years, that after like 6 teams, you could say it's 7 teams that could win it. You could say like a 2 lost Georgia last year, definitely. But I don't think you can really say after 6 that it's 7 teams or 8 teams that you really think have a really legit chance of winning national championship. So we'll see how it pans out. I could be wrong. Like I mean,
Yeah.
I could be wrong. We could see, like March Madness, we could see a 9 seed team winning the national championship next year. All about matchups and coaching.
Yeah. We could see like Liberty go undefeated and win it all. We could see a 9-3 team win it all.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just interesting. I'm excited to see it. I'm just excited to see him. I'm excited to be a fan too. Just watching a lot of kids that I work with the last, 6, 7 years. A lot of these guys are in college. Some are upperclassmen, some are getting there. So it's fun to be objective now and just like watch the game without having bias. Like I don't like this team because of how I felt as a kid, but now I have to be like objective. Like, hey, I got this, kid working playing for this team that I work with, or so it's gonna be fun just to get to watch it.
I agree, and I can't really say I have a team that I'm a fan of because there's so many
Yeah,
players from Ohio on different teams. I can't say I'm a fan of any team because there's a lot of talent no matter where you go.
definitely.
And talk about how was it like being a two sport athlete at Hiram? Because that's the rarity these days when you have a two sport athlete.
It is. It was tough starting out, especially my first couple of years. The transition just from high school to college is different in itself. And once you feel like you get comfortable, now you have to reinvent yourself, So like my freshman year, just going into that, going in as a quarterback and switching to receiver, right? 2 weeks before camp start, that was an entirely different transition in itself. And then that whole year, just kind of learning how to play receiver and focusing in, and now understanding like, hey, I'm not as open as I think I am, but the way my mind worked with being a quarterback, I can look at defenses and dissect them too. So it was a little, from that aspect of knowing what's going to be open, that transition was well. But blocking was my my hardest transition. Catching and running wasn't that much of a transition. And then going into basketball, relearning again a completely new system. Guys have been there for a month already. You get in there, you're a week away from a scrimmage, and it's tough. And then it's tough knowing you just played a football season and you played a lot, and then having to sit the first half of the year because of one, you're being a freshman, you have to learn, and two is guys ahead of you, that have been there, they're earning their keeps. Everyone has to get their chance, and again, the adversity I mentioned earlier is always being ready. So when I got my chance to actually, get my shot in the rotation, after that was no looking back, So, but yeah, it's just every year, just kind of building your mind up to be prepared. Like, hey, football, do what you got to do to be successful. Football, stay healthy, don't take unnecessary hits. Basketball, um, talk to your coach when you get there. What's his timetable? What's your timetable on? Like, hey, do I need a break? Do I need to relax for a week? What do I need to do to get mentally prepared and physically prepared for basketball? Because it's a completely different transition. Um, and it just building off of that, it got easier as the years went on. We kind of developed the system. Hey, this is a game I'm looking at. Never got to that game he was looking at. It was always sooner. So just being prepared, and learning the system, and anything new, just kind of, watching film, that just growing and maturing. So, but playing two sports it's tough, but it's something I always did. So it was kind of like, just on a higher level. The only thing that was like different when I was done my senior year, um, in the spring, it was just like I was bored, because the spring ball for me was football in the spring. After I get done with football, then I'm going to open gym for basketball right after that. So when that was completely over with, I just really didn't know what to do with myself at that point, because I was just so used to this like schedule for 3.5 years. Like, hey, I'm going here, I'm going here, I'm going here. 9 o'clock, I got work. Then after that is bedtime. Then tomorrow I'll do it all over again. So
A couple questions for you. Would you have tried to play a third sport in the spring? And how did you handle your courses? Getting up early for practice, watching film, going and traveling to games. Because I know you guys, Hiram travels to Indiana, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. How do
um,
you handle that coursework? How do you stay focused on your studies?
um, one thing that kept me focused was my wife. I mean, she's my girlfriend at the time. But and she was an athlete herself, so we kind of worked this set schedule out where we get out of whatever we're doing, practice and dining hall, everything, and we knock whatever we need to get out. But a lot of it is just focus. You don't have any time to like waste time. Every precious second you got to take advantage of it, and just organize. I figured out early on writing everything down before we had access to like digital calendars that can pop up on your phone after that. And, um, just writing everything down. What I need to do today, what I need to do tomorrow by tomorrow. And just focus. It's a lot. I think with Hiram, with the listeners who don't know anything about Hiram, it's a rural town, and me coming from the inner city, it was different. Wasn't a lot to do, so that helped out a lot. That it wasn't a lot to do, but focus. Taking care of your body, and having someone to push you. I think, like I said, my wife, she ended up being my wife. I mean, she pushed me all through those, years. Even though she came in a year after me, she pushed me through those years. But yeah, it's tough to stay focused, but you have to do it. Because my ultimate goal was to graduate. I was the first of my mother's children to graduate from high school and go to college. So I had a lot, that I had goals and ambitions that had nothing to really do with football or basketball.
Oh wow! And you had a great career football wise. You set a lot of records. Ended up in the Hiram Football Hall of Fame. Talk about that.
Um, Surreal. Um, that day, I mean, I'm getting inducted in a month, actually. Yeah, in a month.
Congratulations.
But when you just play the game you love, um, and put the work in and the effort, my mind was always mentally sharp to like, hey, I know I want to go to college and play ball. I don't care where, I don't care what sport it is. I just knew I wanted to go to play ball and graduate because, like I said, I had those goals to graduate from college, from my mother, for all my siblings that you know didn't graduate from high school, didn't never got to go to college. So I was really doing that for them. But to set records, I was just playing the game. The first record I broke my freshman year was just kind of I was out there playing, and I looked up at the end of the game and I had 13 catches, and that was a school record. And then the next year you tie it a couple of times, and you start just kind of realizing like I can really do this, and then you get injured, you miss a couple of games, and then your junior year is kind of like the setback year, and I actually thought about walking away and just focusing on basketball. Um, After that, and then you get talked to the new coaching staff, and I'm like, all right, now I really got to put the work in. This is my last year. Now I really have goals. Like I want to get to 1,000 yards. So I put the extra work in the summertime, working out with some guys that I that I look up to, and I set goals, and I just kind of feel like, man, you prepared your mind, you prepare daily, you watch extra film, like early before class, after class, before you go to sleep, and it happened, and even then it's still like, even though that was 2010, it still feels like like wow, I really did this. I became the school's all-time leader and reception leader in 5 games early on in my senior year. I was the first to have a 200-yard game. I had 200-yard games in 3 weeks. So I broke up 2 of my records within 3 weeks of each other. So, and then you go into game 9, and I go over 1,000 yards in 9 games, and it's like, wow, you know. So I still had an extra game to add on to that, but um, you just go play. That's really what Um, I just play football, honestly. If a game I loved, I love playing that game. So I just you look at the records, it's like, wow, I really did this, but I never had intention like, hey, I want to go out here and get 11 catches a game. I want to go into my senior year and say, hey, I want to catch 9 passes a game, which, no one says they want to catch 9 passes a game because of how brutal it is on your body. But that's what happened. But it's just, but the biggest thing is just being a great teammate.
Awesome. And like I said, congratulations on your great career. Did you ever think about playing over professionally in any capacity, or once you graduated, you said, it's on to bigger and better things?
So, crazy situation. So I had another semester of school to finish before so I was done playing football, but I had another semester. So I played in the Ohio National Guard Senior Bowl in Columbus. I played in that game. Talked to some scouts and from Canada and some people overseas in the UFL at the time, and I had those offers. But like I said, my main thing was to get done with school. But on the flip side, I also had a chance to go play basketball overseas. Um, and we had like a Greek island tour. We had a coach at Denison that was really great friends with our coach. And he's from Greece. And they had like, he put a team together of our conference seniors, just trying to get guys looks overseas. And he had the schedule already made out, like a Greek island tour. It was like a 2-week thing, and we were going to play like 20 games. And I could have went that route. This is right after the Senior Bowl, so it was like I knew about both. My mother was like, hey, which one do you want to choose? So I chose football. But, it's like I had that on the table too to go play basketball. But again, my main thing was I got to finish these grades, finish this last class so I can graduate with my degree. And I chose that, because honestly, if I would have took any one of those deals that I had for football or basketball, I probably wouldn't have finished. But even after that, I played semi-pro for a couple of years. I had 2 CFL workouts with the Argonauts and Edmonton. Didn't work out. I didn't know like the back end of like having an agent do the talking for you. So like my first workout, we were in Pittsburgh with the Argonauts, and like, okay, I go out here. I feel like I'm the top 3 receivers out there. My 40's good. All my routes are good. It fits my skill set with the motions and all that. Then after, I'm just looking around like, okay, what's next? And now I see guys like talking to their agents, talking to coaches, and I'm like, well, who is that guy? It's like, oh, that's my agent. I'm like, oh wow, like, but I didn't have this information out that we have now. Like, hey, your agents do the talking for you. They sell you to the team, and then playing semi-pro, I got 3 offers to play arena. But I'm just, at that time, I wasn't a big fan of arena. I call it cage football at the time. I don't know. Like I really wasn't truly into it. And then the deal that I really considered when Kentucky River Monsters, I really considered that deal until like the parameters was laid out to me with like the money and still having to work another job to, stay afloat that they had already situated, and then moving to Cincinnati. And then at the time my wife was pregnant, and I was like, no. And then my career at Sherwin was taking off. So I was like, no, I'll play one more year semi-pro football, and I'll leave it at that. And then I'll just focus on my career, so that was kind of like my story of almost, professionally. So I had the arena deals. It just didn't fit me as far as the money and what I had to go on along with that. So
yeah, fair enough. And arena football, it's funny that you should mention it's kind of like cage football. Now it's like mall football because they're playing their title game in a mall.
Yeah, and it's like a kid I worked with played in that game, won a championship. And then on the other side, a guy I played against in semi-pro actually got his first deal playing semi-pro, playing arena off playing semi-pro. And he didn't play football in college. So you should look his story up. His name is Darius Prince, real good friend of mine. I played against him in college on the basketball side. And he has a really great story about him going from semi-pro to arena ball MVP, and then making the Eagles practice squad all the way up until week 4 of training camp and getting cut. So it's a great story. You should Google it. It's a great story. But he actually played in that game against a guy I've been working with since he was in high school. So it was like cool to see, honestly, watching that game outside of like playing in the mall. But it was cool to see that. But yeah, arena, it never was for me. I wasn't in my car to play arena.
Gotcha. And how did you end up getting involved in coaching? Because I know you said that your corporate career, you said you worked at Chevron at the time.
Williams.
So talk about how you got involved in coaching, like after your playing days were over.
So I started doing training in 2014. Like, Coach Austin Clopton that coaches at East. He had a training company. I was playing semi-pro at the time, and he's like, hey, man, can you come help with a youth camp with me? I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll go help with the receivers. I go help it. We had to get a camp in Green, youth camp. I go help. And I'm like, okay, I think nothing of it. The winter comes. He's like, hey man, we doing, football training. Let's, I want you to come help. I'm like, all right, go out there. And I actually like it, enjoy it, So it gave me like this fix from not actually like playing football anymore. So now I can, I'm still around the game, coaching kids, and then that transition on to, 3-4 years on the line where now I'm this receiver trainer that everyone knows. And then one of my best friends, Brian Williams, who I played with at Buchtel, we had been talking about for years, like, hey, you need to coach G. I'm like, no, I don't want to coach. I like training. I don't like being attached to kids. And I like traveling like you do. Like we're going to watch all these games and travel different places, see environments, meet people. That I don't think people understand how great that is to actually do. Like I did that for an entire year. Every week I was just going to a different game, where no matter if it was in Columbus, Dayton, Akron, Ohio, Cleveland, everywhere. I was at a different game every week. So I mean, I don't think I want to coach. But I was like, if you ever become a head coach, I'll be there. It just so happened like that conversation 2 years later, he's applying for the Buchtel job, going back home, and I had to live up to my word and just like, hey, I'll come coach with you. Now I'm entering year 4, So he's the only reason that I'm actually coaching high school football, because I don't think I would coach high school football if it wasn't for Brian Williams, honestly. Because I training that much, honestly. Like I know, like everyone knows, like I'm really like in tune with X's and O's and all that, but I just never really wanted to coach.
And speaking of Brian Williams, he's got some great accolades himself. I believe he played in the NFL at one point.
Yeah, it's funny. We were just up there with the Browns because that's where he signed as an undrafted free agent, and he was just kind of mentioning how like you could do something for so many years and then get into a situation where nothing registers to you, But on top of like the field, you just kind of going through the things of being a professional athlete at the time, But Brian was a really good player, a better person, and he made it to the highest level before playing in Canada for about 5 years. So he's a good dude, man. I really look up to him. I respect him, and I've known him since I was 13 years old. So like I said, when he said, hey man, I need you to come, submit this first piece on the chessboard of coaches, I said, yeah, I got you.
And talk about the wide receiver training you do. I believe you train wide receivers year round. You're also part of the Fix Sports Academy.
Yeah, so this is my training company with Austin Clopton. So everyone asks like, what does that mean? So it's an acronym. So FIX, Fix stands for fundamentals. The I stands for intelligence, and the X is execution. So that's what that means. We started that in 2018 after bridging away from another training company and starting our own. And then I just do a random kid. I come across Brad Mangler, who's the quarterback, trainer of Ohio and the Midwest. And, I've been working with him since 2019. And, with him and what I do is just like, I've expanded to be able to work with not only kids from Northeast Ohio, but Toledo and Columbus and Dayton and even southern parts of Ohio and down by the West Virginia border, and some kids in Pennsylvania and even Indiana. So it's been fun to watch like my actual growth, but it's also, intriguing to see some of the parents that support their children that want to come work with me, like these kids that's driving, parents and kids driving 3.5 hours to come work for 90 minutes, and it's a testament to how much the kids, the parents trust me and how much they want to get better. So wide receiver training is fun. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy seeing the kids, get to the next level, not taking credit for what, God gave them as far as their abilities. I just want to help mold it, So when the coaches ask like, hey, what do you really feel about this kid? They come to the trainer. So, I give them the really one too, as brutal as it may sound to someone that's maybe hearing this, he's not a Division I kid right now. And I have to say that because they trust me, and, I'll tell the parent that too. He's not where he needs to be right now. So it's fun though.
It's great. And last question I have for you is talk about the excitement behind Buchtel football going into 2024.
Um, Man, year 4 from where we started. This is our first cycle class. So when we came in 3 years ago, the Stevie Diamonds, the Demetrius Coates, the DeAndre, Copeland, those guys were freshmen. Those guys are seniors now. So even just seeing those guys grow up is just something that I've enjoyed. Um, but with the excitement that's around, us now is we built from the ground up. Our guys understand what our core values there are as a program, what we want to accomplish, um, and they're working at it. It's less, coaching as far as the back and forth. These guys are the leaders now, so it's less that we have to say. It's more that they're saying, but a lot of it is they're leaders now, and they, like I said, they understand what we're trying to accomplish. But the excitement is, underdog mentality. That's us. We know what our goal is. One of our goals is we want to have a home playoff game. I know that sounds, ridiculous to someone that may be listening, but we've only had one home playoff game in the history of Buchtel High School at Buchtel. And, a lot of that is we don't have lights, which, we should have lights in a couple of years at the school. But um, Brian was the only one to play in that game that's on our coaching staff. So he understands how big that is for our community to, you know, shoot for that goal to have a playoff game. That's one of my goals, as a coach, to make sure that we get there. But even if we don't, it's still, hey, let's get better every week, and let's get ready for, another, underdog role of a season that we so accustomed to, and we know our region is stacked, man. You saw who's in our region now with, Glenville and Perry and Norton and, all those teams. But we respect them, and we know we're going to be in a dogfight with whoever. But the excitement is, we go as far as our leaders take us, and they've had a lot of experience. I don't think it's a lot of football players in Northeast Ohio that's played more games than Stevie Diamond, and on top of him winning the state championship on the basketball side too. So he has that pedigree to know what it takes to get to the next level. So we're excited. Getting ready for a scrimmage this coming up weekend. So I'm excited about this season, just because of this is our seniors. These are the guys we came in. These guys have shaped molded our program to where we want it to be. So I'm excited.
Awesome. And Coach G, thank you for coming on the show. And as always, you guys can check out Tapped In with Tony on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. You can also follow on Twitter at tpokes2010. And if you have any final words before we finish up.
Man, thanks for having me, man. You're really great at what you do. I enjoy seeing you at not only at our games, but I do enjoy seeing you at some Division III football games. I did see you last year at the Mount Union John Carroll game. I saw you ripping and running, and being who you are, man. So I know it's you enjoy what you do. Everyone enjoys seeing you, and like I said, thanks for having me on. So when you asked me to come on, it was a no-brainer, man.
Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.